Blended Podcasts. Brought to you by Blended Audio.
What does a healthy, balanced lifestyle consist of? How should you eat? What exercise should you be doing? How many hours of sleep do we really need? Does too much water flush away all your vitamins? Should it be high carb, low fat, or high fat, low carb? The more research you do, the more confusing it gets, because there is so much information out there, and there are so many conflicting opinions. So how are we supposed to know? Stick around to explore the different approaches to health with us, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and let's try to figure out together what the heck being healthy really means. I am your host, Hazel Priscilla, and this is your weekly dose of Feed Me Honesty. Welcome back. It's a new week, which means a brand new episode of Feed Me Honesty. When we talk about health, we tend to focus all of our attention on physical health and too often neglect our mental, spiritual, and sexual health. But here at Feed Me Honesty, we believe in balance, and so we think it is important to talk about these other aspects of our health that are normally a bit more sensitive and can even sometimes feel taboo. I will definitely be the first to admit that I'm a bit out of my comfort zone today because I normally identify as quite a shy and conservative person. I feel like that part of me has a lot to do with the fact that I was raised in an Afrikaans house. Afrikaans people, I've come to realize, are generally a bit more private. That is why I'm so excited to introduce today's guest, who is quite the opposite and comes from a completely different background. Tessa Custers obtained her Bachelor's of Arts degree in Communication at Fontys University for Applied Science. She also did her Master's degree in Sociology at the University of Amsterdam. In 2014, she founded the organization She Blooms that is focused on creating healthy, happy, and safe sexuality. She Blooms believes that the world will be a more beautiful and loving place if we celebrate womanhood more and if we talk more openly about sexuality, because both create understanding, contact, and connection, which are all things that the world can really do with right now. This year, Tessa is also working on her Sex, Love, and Relationship Coach certification through the Tantric Institute of Integrated Sexuality, which includes 600 hours of professional training for people who have a passion for holistic sexuality and truthful, intimate relationships. Tessa, firstly, welcome in studio today. It is really such a pleasure for me to have you here. I say that you come from a different background, but I think you once told me that you were raised in a very small town as well, and that the people around you thought you were a little weird when you started to explore all the above-mentioned topics. So perhaps it's not only Afrikaans people, but more of a global occurrence. First, tell us where you were born and raised, and what influence you think your upbringing had on you as an individual.
Well, thank you first for having me here. Where I was born, I'm from Holland, the Netherlands. So I grew up in a very tiny village called Zomerheide. And I think we had like 1,500 people in the village. So I would say...
That's so small.
It's very small.
I thought I came from a small town, but I think we have a little more than 1,500 people.
Yeah, so it's a very, very tiny village. And... I think it was nice in a way to grow up in such a tiny village, but it was also in a way it restricted me. So because I would say Holland or the village I grew up in was also in a bit narrow-minded, and when it comes to sexuality and topics like this, we didn't really speak openly about it. Like I was thinking, I went to a primary school that was Catholic, so I don't think we ever talked about sexuality. There was no sexual education, I think, at all.
Did you have, like, in grade 7, I know we had, like, your, what do you call it? Where they teach you about sexuality, basically. Mm-hmm. Did you have that?
No, not in primary school. We had that in high school.
In high school, okay, but you did have it.
We did, okay. But from what I remember, the teacher, I think it was the biology teacher that had to do it, and I think he couldn't even like speak the word sex out loud. So if I look back at that now, and what I'm learning now, I'm like, oh, that's like such a little information, and the education has been so little. And also, from what I remember, like my mom and my dad also, I never really had
a conversation with you, hey?
Yeah, my mom after now, she says, like, she was very happy that I said, like, I think it was when I started menstruating. that she wanted to have a conversation, and I said to her, no, I know everything. Yeah. And my mom was like, oh, I'm happy. And she said, because I didn't want to have that.
It's more awkward for them than I think it is for us, even. Because I remember my mother also tried to have that conversation with me when I was like 16, which is already maybe too old. But I tried to avoid it, and I said, don't worry, Mom. I know everything I need to know. It's okay. And I just like left the room, and she never said anything again. So
so that's also, I think it's in a way, it really depends on where you grow up, and also how your parents are.
And how they were raised. I feel like the way they were raised is kind of how they raise their children. So
maybe a little different, but they just, So it's, so that's where I'm from.
Okay, so when did you decide you want to make a career out of sex, love, and relationship coaching? Was there a specific point in your life when you had an aha moment, or did the idea develop over a period of time?
No, definitely developed over a period of time. So, but it's funny, if I look back, then I've always been interested in the human body and also in sexuality. My first time in South Africa was in 2003. And I wasn't specifically studying sexuality, but I was very intrigued by
this when you were studying communication still?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And then I was very intrigued by the whole HIV/AIDS because I was living in a township, Kayamandi, and was doing my research there. And reading about it is like, there's so many people are infected, but nobody's talking about it. It's like not a topic or something. And that, like, I think that stayed in my subconscious mind somewhere. And when I started to study sociology, I did a lot also throughout my whole study on sexuality, also not only in South Africa but just generally, and then when I had a chance, because I said to myself, if I have to write my thesis, then I'll really want to go back and do something related to this topic in South Africa. And I think that's where it's like it started.
The seed was planted.
But then I graduated, and then I just I wasn't doing very well myself, and then my personal development was more important, and and then I started doing yoga and started working with meditation and the body mostly, because I figured out that I was way too much focused on my mind and my head, and
most of us are though. Hey,
I think so.
It's good if you actually notice it and realize it and think.
I think it's funny, because I think that's also one of the basic things that like fuel in a way my work and my passion for it. And then at a certain point, my research came back, because I had to write a subject I was teaching in college, and I'm like, oh my word, it was such a nice topic, and I really loved it, and I put so much energy and time and effort in it. But like after finishing that, I was like, okay, now I'm just gonna put that away for a while. Wow. And then I came back, and then I'm like, I just want to do something with that. And then I started working with 2 students from Holland, and together with them, we worked for a year. We used my research and my thesis as a basis, and they were design students. And I said, I just want to have something practical, like a service or product or design, something that we can actually do something to improve sexual health at that time in South Africa. And then something came out, and that became She Blooms. To cut a long story short, I ran a crowdfunding, got money, and then I had to do it. And then I came here, and it's like, I had 2 months to really like it.
That's sometimes the best way to do something, is just like not to throw yourself into it. Hey, and you don't have a choice. You have to continue.
I didn't have a choice.
So on the She Blooms website, you mentioned that sexual development actually starts from birth, or even before birth in the womb. And that's not something I think we ever really think about, hey? So if sexuality is such a natural part of our existence, why do you think in the first place it started to become such a taboo subject?
I think there's a few points. I think sexuality has a lot to do with intimacy, which is scary for people. It comes very close, and you don't easily share that with other people.
Is that also people being too private, or like I said, Afrikaans people I know are private, so you don't talk about your private life? Do you think that's why?
That's a big part of it, I think. And there's no wrong or right, I think, about it, because I think that's the difficulty as well. But from my personal experience, like I find it's way more freeing to be more open, but that's for me.
And only maybe with certain people. Like I say I'm a private person, but I have my people who I'm not private with, who I can talk like a mother maybe even, or best friend.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be so open with it if it doesn't feel comfortable, but like at least talk to it to some people.
Yes, because I think when you don't talk about it, when you make it super private, it becomes a shameful thing as well. And that makes, I think that's in a way suppressing also sexuality. And I think it's very vulnerable. Because there's a lot of insecurities and things around it, so it's really coming very close, I think, to who you are and what is going on inside. And I think a third one why it's such a taboo is, like historically speaking, sexuality, and sexual preference and all that kind of thing. There's a lot of wrong and right has been put on that, and also
I think like even with the Bible and stuff
so society, religion, I think media, we all have, we get all this information and conditioning about what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong. And I think being open about what you really think and believe and feel can sometimes, and has been, like in certain cultures and areas in the world, it's still dangerous to talk about that and to share that. So there is also very, how to say it, there's a very good reason in a way as well that it's that it is a taboo in a way. But it's also, I think, very unhealthy.
Okay, so on the She Booms website, you also write that sexuality relates to confidence and positivity, which I also think is not like, you don't make that connotation when you think about sexuality. Can you tell us how sexuality relates to trusting your own instincts and getting, like you said, out of your head a little bit more in general?
Well, if for me, sexuality is all about body, like literally, I think if you look in your body and look at your sexual organs, they're very much like I would say it at the base of your body, where also your instincts are, I think. So it's I think sexuality has a lot to do with like what primal energy in a way as well, and that's for me very related to instincts and to intuition, and we live in a world, I think nowadays, that goes soft and fast, and we have to do a lot with our minds and our heads, and we lose the connection literally with our body.
It's hard to shut down your brain as well, hey? Because you've been doing it for so long.
So I think, and also from personal experience, because I was very much there, like I was complete up and I didn't have any connection with my body. But like that journey to start feeling again and like to feel what's going on and to really listen to my body, because my body has like such a powerful wisdom in it.
Yes, definitely.
That really just like changing it, and I think by doing that more and more, I also get more confident back in my body, because I think that's what happens if you go way more in your head and in your mind, like you don't trust your body. And if you come to sexuality, it has a lot to do with trust as well, trusting your own body, and if you like sexual with another person, with trusting another person. So I think that's one of the big things that can help if you're more connected to your body, also to get more connected to your instincts and to your confidence in a way.
And to add to that question, how does being comfortable with your own sexuality relate to trusting other people? So now we talked about yourself and trusting your own instincts, which is also sometimes hard. You always like doubt yourself, hey? So how does that relate to trusting other people?
Yeah, that's a big one. I think that's one of the biggest things.
And that has a lot to do with the relationship coaching, I suppose, as well.
Yes, yeah. So I think, it's why I say it's a big question, because there's a lot of different degrees that people have had relationship and trust has been broken and all that kind of thing. So it's almost difficult to answer that, I think, in short. But I believe that you first, in a way, need to work on yourself and trusting your own body, know where your boundaries are, what is it that you want and feel, desire, all that things, and then like be able to share that with someone you deeply trust and feel safe with. And I think that's, well, also from my own experience, I haven't done that always. Like I always thought like, oh yeah, that's what I should do and that's what I should be like as a girl or as a woman.
Someone's partner.
Yeah, and But over the last few years, I started to really feel like, oh, but what is it actually that's going on in me, and what do I need to feel safe and to open up to a person? And I think that's where you can start like trusting another person as well, even when that has been broken.
So basically trusting your instincts to trust other people, because your instincts chose that person for you, kinda, or you love that person, so so you trust yourself for loving them more than you trust them. Do you think that's a thing?
Yeah, but it's funny. There's a lot more to this, and then like, because it's a tricky one.
You can be wrong.
Yeah, because we have sometimes patterns that actually like evolve out of our childhood that we actually chose.
Yeah,
the wrong people.
I hear you.
And that's related to
or feeling like you don't deserve better, hey, because you don't love yourself first. Yeah. So we're gonna actually get to that now. Now I want to talk a bit more about the course you're currently doing that I mentioned earlier. While doing my research, I came across this quote from the founder, Layla Martin, which really made a big impression on me. She says, "A relationship isn't a place where you go to find love, and sex isn't a place where you go to seek your own worthiness. Love starts from within." So this is exactly what we were talking about now. I think so many of us, especially our youth, look for love in all the wrong places when we should be looking to ourselves first. I have to say, though, that you hear people talking about self-love a lot more these days, I don't know if you would agree, than you did like about 10 years ago or something. So we are definitely moving in the right direction, or starting to do so at least. What I would like to know from you is, where do you even start when you are so used to this old patterns of self-criticizing and feeling inadequacy? Like, how do you start to love yourself? Again. You probably did when you were little.
Yeah, we all do that. When we're born, like, you love yourself, and it's nothing, like, you can't think of doing anything wrong. You're just you.
And you get so much love from other people when you're little. Like, when you do something wrong, it's never like, they never judge you for it. They're like, oh, she's little, and oh, you were so cute. But when you grow up, you don't get that love from other people, so then you feel,
And it also starts even very young. But I think, like, one big thing is awareness and consciousness. Because I think as a parent, that's important when you raise like kids and know, like, oh, where do you actually or judge or something like that. But I think that's also what with self-love. So I think it starts with awareness and with like being conscious about what is actually going on. What do I think? What do I feel? And how is that related to like certain patterns? So I think that's like a big first step.
I think something that's really worked for me is like imagining myself as my own best friend. You know, when I think of how I treat my best friend, and I have quite a few of them, like I would never be hard on them for doing anything, or even my mother, if they do something wrong, or if they feel I always see them as the most beautiful person. I never look at them and see anything that I think is not pretty, or anything that I think is not worth loving. But with myself, if I did the exact same thing wrong that my friend did wrong, I would be so much harder on myself. Or if I looked the exact same way as she looked, I'd still find these flaws. So seeing myself as my own best friend, and then like positive self-talk.
Yeah.
You don't notice yourself being so negative to yourself in your head, like when you look in the mirror or anything. You don't notice it because you're so used to it. But if you start making a conscious like effort to notice what you're saying to yourself in your head, then you can like start to make it a small changes. That you don't have to go from negative to positive immediately. Just soften a little bit until you get to a place where you actually really feel better about that, and then
it's not like an easy.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's harder because and I think I think the awareness of what you say, like seeing yourself as your best friend, because you would not like
treat your best friend that way.
It's so hard. And that's a lot of what we also learn in the course as well, is to invite everything. We often have been taught that that certain emotions were not right or not welcome, and that kind of now I'm feeling jealous. Oh no, I can't, because that's not what I'm supposed to do. And now I'm feeling like angry. Especially as women, we haven't really learned to be like angry or like have that rage and express that, not towards someone, but just express that because that's happening inside your body.
Just admit that that's the way you're feeling.
Yeah, and just allow that. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm feeling so angry right now. Instead of pushing that aside and putting it in a dark place that it's not allowed, you actually allow that inside of yourself. And I think that's like, and it's difficult because like you like all these small things. Like sometimes I'm like, why do I do it? I feel that this is what I need right now, and somehow I think that I should do this. So I have this to-do list, and I wanna like tick it off. But I actually feel that I need, like, for example, a nap right now.
Yeah.
Why can't I give that? Like, so all these little things I think that's where it starts. And it's a journey. It's not like, I'm
it's not a college degree. That's what they say. You don't like graduate and then you get it right for the rest of your life. It's something like you have to almost practice every day from the beginning. Right?
But from personal experience, I can say that it really...
It does get better and easier.
Very much so. Yeah.
Okay. During my research, I also heard Layla talking about releasing the trauma that we carry in order to heal. How do you begin to help someone who has suffered sexual trauma to heal from that?
Yes, I think a very important distinction, I don't know if that's the right word, there's like various degrees and levels of sexual trauma.
Okay,
so definitely. It can be like the more intense sexual trauma like rape or sexual abuse, but it can also be, sexual trauma can also be that you, when you were younger, you have been shamed or like bullied about, I don't know, for guys about your penis, or for a woman that you I don't know, your breasts or your vagina or vulva was like a little, different or something like that, and that you can carry that unconsciously like with you, and that actually affects your sexual life.
That's probably worse when something's unconscious, like when you know you were raped, you know why you're feeling this way, or there's something wrong or that needs to be addressed. But when it's subconscious, maybe you don't know that it's going on.
And I know we have a lot of subconscious things, even sometimes with rape and sexual abuse, it's being stored in the subconscious, and people, because that was the way to deal with it, otherwise they could definitely not deal with that. So I think addressing sexual trauma, I think it's really important, if you really want to work with trauma, that you have a therapist or a coach. I think it depends on the level of trauma, where you want to work with, that the person is qualified and professional, because if you don't do it right, you can also re-traumatize.
Yes.
So I think that's important, and I think the willingness is important, so that the person is willingly to work with the trauma. Because you probably will visit.
It's not fun, hey? Yeah.
No, it's like, and I think what I love about our course is that we heal through pleasure as well a lot. So pleasure is a super important a part of it, because there are dark places and there is pain and there is hurt, and you're going to visit that because that's how you felt, and you want to feel that, but not to
you're not going to stay there for too long.
No, because you don't want to re-traumatize, and you just want to see how your trauma or affects your current life. That's the coaching part. That's also why I choose that because I like to work in the present and in the now, and to see what has happened that influences what you want and desire right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You recently also got back from a trip to Mexico that I believe also formed part of this course that you're doing. Can you tell us what the retreat was all about and what you took away from that experience?
Yes, I just got back, and it was a beautiful experience because we were with 45 to 50 women, I think. Wow, in the Mexican.
That's quite a big group, actually.
It's a very big group.
Yeah.
So
especially only women.
Only women, yeah. And I think that's the beauty of it, because there's also a lot of hurt and trauma around sisterhood, I think, that also came up. That also, it's not only male, women,
female,
but there's also lots of things happening between women and like jealousy and all that stuff. But for me, what I really loved, it was all about remembering what it is to be a woman. And like I said, letting everything out, all the things all the emotions, all the feelings that are
building up for so many years.
Yeah. And what my team was really celebrating my blood, literally and figuratively.
Menstruation blood.
Yes, menstruation blood. Because I started menstruating, and I could still feel that there's so much shame and in a way guilt in me that what if I leak? What if other people see it? And I'm like, I'm with all the women. We all bleed. We know it's just blood. It's not something gross. It's just such a beautiful expression of your natural
reproductive system.
Yeah. And I could actually feel that it creates tension in my sexual organs, and to free that was so beautiful. So for me, it was a lot to do with freeing my sexuality, and that's also figuratively. If I look at my female lineage, there has been a lot of suppression of sexuality, no freedom in expressing that at all, and so I really worked on that, and that was very beautiful for me, because I really really believe that sexual energy, and if that's able to flow freely in your body, that's also, it's like sexual energy is life energy. So that also shows up in your life, that you will feel more free and flowy in your life. And I think that's, if you talk about health, I think that creates a much more healthy way of being, because you're free in expressing yourself and being yourself and in who you are. And that journey to really like show that more and be that more, I think that's what I find the beauty of this work.
Tessa, thank you so much for joining us and for your willingness to talk so openly about these taboo subjects. We really appreciate your honesty and all the knowledge that you shared with us today, and we wish you all the best on your journey forward. I would also like to thank Blended Audio for this platform, production manager and engineer today, Pieter Matthijser, and all our listeners at home for allowing us to talk about these things that people don't normally like to talk about. Tune in next week for a 2-part episode that will solely be dedicated to discussing all there is to know about plant-based diets. Have a balanced week, and remember to be kind to yourself so that you can be kind to others too. Feed Me Honesty is a South African lifestyle podcast hosted by Hazel Priscilla and produced with the generous assistance of Blended Podcasts, brought to you by Blended Audio.